Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the preview show for The Focus, which is a new show we're going to be putting out on focusing on video and recruitment. Each week, we're going to be focused on different aspects of video and recruitment, whether it be the technology, the uses that we're going to put to video content that are being produced, and of course, the technicalities involved in how we can make all these things happen and come together. I have a guest with me, but she's had to run out of the room very quickly, Louise Trines. But as I say, we're going to be talking about the show, which is not starting today. This is just a preview. So the sneak preview is to talk about what we're anticipating coming up. And one of those things is Louise Trines, who's just entered the room. Louise, how's it?
Hello. Thank you for inviting me on your pre-show show.
Yes, it is the pre-show show. It's not the show. It's the show talking about the show. Yes. The show will be live next week for the first time. And our first show will be obviously a very special one because it's going to be coming live from RecFest in the heart of is it the Isle of Dogs? But it's in London anyway.
And that's all my questions. You just answered a question I'm going to ask you in a minute.
My apologies. Dive in, Louise. Sorry.
You can tell me more about where your first show is in a moment. So I thought that rather than you just talking to yourself, if I ask you some questions about these new series of shows. So This is a regular show you're going to be doing. What's the whole point of the new series? What's it about?
Well, the point, the background to the series is, so obviously we have a channel here, Recruiter Zone. Recruiter Zone is a video channel. It's a webcast channel for shows all about recruitment, and I have a particular interest in video and recruitment. And in the past 6 months, especially, if not few years, then what I've seen is that the volume of interest and use of video in all aspects of recruitment is going through the roof. Mm-hmm. When you speak with most people about video and recruitment, they think about video interviews. Video interviews have become very popular, and people have opinions on both sides of the topic. But video is being used more and more in communications right across the board. So the reason I want to do a show is that I am inundated on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, also with questions about the technicalities of setting up for video and recruitment. What kind of kit you need to use, what are the uses for video in recruitment and hiring in HR, how do you set about setting up your channels to record, who's going to record these videos anyway within organizations. So all of those things, putting them together, I'm being asked on a regular basis, well, how is this done? And I thought, rather than, and it's not necessarily a promo for my job, but it's talking about the wider subject of video and recruitment. So we will be looking at lots of other platforms and means of getting videos put together for use in recruitment and employment and HR, and all the ways in which those can be put together.
Okay, so you've slightly touched on some of the topics you're going to be covering, which I'm going to ask you to tell me about in a bit more detail. But Who is the audience? What sort of who would watch this? Would I watch this? Would an agency recruiter watch this? Would an in-house recruiter?
Yeah. Well, yes. So the agency recruiters would watch this because video is a fantastic way of communicating with what they already have, which is a really large talent pool of candidates. The people who are in your database, who are all GDPR approved and so on, people who are in your database are your audience straight away. And of course, the people you want to attract into your database. And of course, going beyond that, your potential clients. Yeah. And TA professionals are continually challenged with, well, how do we get more from less? They're overworked, they're under-resourced. And what we do know, and part of the background to what I do now, is that text-based adverts are just not working. They're just not working at all in the way that they used to. And people are looking at other ways in which they can find, identify, and engage with candidates. So the audience will be anyone in HR, TA, and recruitment firms. To backtrack a little bit, just to give you some of the stats. Sorry if I'm yakking on. Stop me if I'm bored at any point. But 74% of every single byte that goes through the internet is actually data on YouTube. 74% of the entire internet is YouTube. They have 5 billion views every single day. It's the second most visited website in the world, and content on video is shared 1,200%. That's no typo. 1,200% more I suppose that's 12 times as much as any other content. There are more searches done on YouTube than on Google every day of the week. And video is being consumed in more and more volume all the time. So text-based adverts kind of go back to the 300 years ago when newspapers were invented, and they really haven't changed too much since. Even going onto the internet, they haven't changed much. But video absolutely can engage candidates in ways that you just can't do otherwise. So that's what's behind it.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is explore the practicalities of doing it, and who should be doing it, and how they do it.
Okay, so that is my next question, which is the topic. So you touched on some of the topics. So can you give me sort of 10 of the topics you're going to be covering in the first shows?
So we'll have a show all about technologies, cameras, webcams, lights, stands, all the technicalities that are involved in putting together any kind of video content. Another will be on the platforms that you would use. Obviously, YouTube's a big one. Vimeo, social media channels and websites that belong to yourself as well as publishing to job boards. Obviously, in recruitment, job boards are very much to the forefront. Another topic will be, and this will probably go into a number of shows, the uses in which you can be putting video in recruitment too. So not only job adverts themselves, although that's a big topic, but employer branding, marketing, onboarding, training, and of course narrowcasting content to directly to candidates, to talent pools, to your employees, the ways in which you're not putting content out to the world, but you're sending content to a very focused group of individuals. And of course, what we will be doing is bringing on experts who are working in each of those areas, who have case studies, experience of what works, what doesn't work, where they've succeeded, where they've fallen flat on their face or on their backsides, and maybe getting into some of the more nitty-gritty. How do you manage your archive of content on YouTube? And throughout all of that, there'll be statistics and case studies and facts and figures. So anyone who works in an environment and is thinking, well, I want to be using, I feel like I should be using video in recruitment, we'll give you the facts and figures and stats and all the knowledge so that you can make a case for that within your organization. If you're in an agency or an employer, large or small, we'll give you the information that will help you to do it today, next week, and build a plan for the future in how you're going to use video in recruitment. Okay,
that's great. And do you have guests lined up?
I do have guests. I've guests that I know are going to be coming on, and I have ideal guests that I believe I can attempt to come on. So Jonathan Foyne, who is a director with JobViddy, people will know JobViddy. JobViddy they are the official filmers of my RecEx events. They did a great job in RecEx in Lisbon last month, and in the past couple of years. Olivia Solomons, who is our in-house filming expert with Video My Job. Matt Alder, who is a great friend of Video My Job. Ben Gledhill with Yodel. Yodel using video for their recruitment processes really successfully. And a string of others. So people that I'm hoping to have on. Katrina Collier has been a host of her Recruiter Zone show for the past, is it 3 years now? Even before Recruiter Zone was around, she was using Blab. And Katrina is really an expert on using video, not only in her shows that she has every single week, and she has great viewers for, but in all manner of content that she's putting out. Katrina Kibben, who is a master in employer branding. And of course yourself. So Louise, you've been using Recruiter Zone. You are Recruiter Zone for the past couple of years, but even before that, and with all of your events, you would have videos created live at your events, whether it be small networking events, big networking events, your technology events, and so on. And using video either live at the event itself or afterwards, so that people can get a real sense of what happened. And I know that you use that really successfully to promote next events coming up, so people know what to expect. So as an expert yourself, I would hope that you would come on one of the shows and talk about that in more detail.
Yeah, no, massive advocate of using video. And like you say, we have used it in various different ways over the years very successfully. So yeah, no, that's great. And I love your speaker lineup. I think you've got some great people in there. I especially like people who will be able to give a case study of how they've used it in their own business.
Yeah.
So some of John's clients, for example, who've been using it and seen success from that, I think would be really interesting to get on. Right. So my final question for you is the one you tried to answer at the start, which is, when is the first show?
So the first show is going to be next Thursday, and it's going to be live from RecFest. Now, it's not part of the official setup in RecFest. I have to say that straight away, or Jamie will shoot me. But I'm at RecFest, as I have been from the beginning. And this year, thankfully, I'm not actually running one of the stages, which means that I'll be free to roam around and speak to as many people as possible and get the flavour of that. So what I want to do is share the flavour of RecFest on Crowdcast and Facebook Live, so that people who can't get there, and sadly, a lot of people can't now because it's completely sold out. 3,000 in-house recruiters will be there from not only the UK, but Europe and worldwide. I know a lot of people coming over from the States. So what I'm going to be doing is showing RecFest, but also showing, well, how do you do that sort of thing? How do you report live from an event? How can you get your content across in a professional and authentic way without it seeming overslick, but also without looking like you've recorded it on a webcam that you bought in a lucky bag.
Yeah, that's great. No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think that is the mix. For most people, that's what they're trying to get, somewhere between those two things, where their setup is professional enough, but they're not spending thousands and thousands on getting their kit together, and hours and hours in preparing what they're going to do and how they're going to pitch that. Okay, I love it. And it'd be interesting to see how you get on at RecFest, because I can't be there, so I'll be able to watch.
Before we go, can I just, because some people ask me this, so what's your setup at your desk? Obviously, what you can see here is me and what's behind me, but I'm not saying that I'm an absolute expert in these areas, but I do have a lot of kit round about me that helps to make things look a bit simpler than they are. So if I can just show you very quickly, I'm going to take this webcam here, and if I can point this here, so you can see over here, we've got a large tripod. We've got some lights at the desk there. I've got a secondary screen. Obviously, nice microphone there, a couple of webcams, and extra lights over here. So these are all, they're all relatively small, and they're all actually relatively inexpensive, but great ways in which you can, in your own office, put together effectively a studio environment that is controlled, so that you're not relying on the strobe lights above you or the natural light from outside, so that when you're on any kind of video call, if you're on Skype or any of the other video channels, then, and everyone is these days, then you want to be able to control the environment about you. And some of the things that you can do cost almost no money. Some of the things can cost a lot of money. One of these microphones, for example, at 60 quid, but an absolute necessity. You wouldn't feel the benefit of it, but whoever's on the other end of the call, they'll absolutely feel the benefit of it. And a reasonable webcam will cost something similar. And putting those kind of things together for your work environment is kind of a no-brainer. Don't go for the cheapest option. Go for the one that's going to have the quality that you need. So when we talk about tech, then we'll talk about those kinds of things. But I just wanted to share the kind of setup that I have at my desk myself.
Yeah, and mine's very similar. Much tidier than yours, but very similar. Oh, wait, no. Hey. Because it'll embarrass you. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we're back here next Thursday. I'll be somewhere else watching you, and then the Thursday afterwards, you'll be into your regular schedule with your guests and your topics. And you're going to share those somewhere, presumably, so people can see in advance.
Yes, I'll be publicising well in advance the content of the show, who's going to be on, what we're going to be talking about, and we'll have a schedule lined up for every Thursday going forward from now at 4 p.m. Hopefully that's a good time for people in UK and Europe, but also for people in the States as well.
Brilliant. Okay, great. We'll see you next week.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone who's been watching. I will look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully we'll have no technical hitches, but who can say? Thank you very much. Adios.